Welcome back to another episode of the Art Inside the Craft podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Glazier, and this is episode number Lucky 13. I've been a fan of today's guest, Warren Haynes, for quite a while. From his inspirational work in the Allman Brothers Band, his time in the Dead, or basically any other time he strapped on his guitar and stepped up to a microphone. Today's episode was recorded right after the release of the new Gov't Mule album, Heavy Load Blues. And I had a chance to talk to Warren about some of the intricate aspects of recording the album, their song selection, their use of vintage instruments and equipment to create this truly unique and more traditional blues album. In my opinion, it's still classic Gov't Mule, and an instant classic. So let's listen into that interview now with Warren Haynes. Okay, well, I always kind of like to start off my interviews just giving my guests a little bit of a background about when I first heard them. I just kind of think it's interesting to know. And the first time that I actually heard Gov't Mule was in 95 on the Hempilation CD with Don't Step on the Grass, Sam.
Oh.
And I've just been a huge fan ever since.
Well, that's actually the first recording we ever did.
Oh, no kidding. Incredible.
Yeah, we recorded that before we made our first record.
Wow.
It was just a one-off. And yeah, that's the first time Gov't Mule went in the studio.
Wow, well, I'm extra glad that was my first experience with you guys. So the new album is called Heavy Loaded Blues, obviously. It's about a 50-50 mix of originals and covers of more straight blues sound. And so I guess my question is, when you guys decided on these originals that ended up on the album, did you already have a lot of these written, or did you kind of, once you guys got the concept, write stuff specifically for the album?
Well, most of these songs were written in the last couple of years, meaning during the COVID lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them I had started or maybe even written a little prior to that. The only one that really predates that is If Heartaches Were Nickels, which I wrote a long time ago, and Joe Bonamassa recorded a long time ago, but I had never done my own version of it until now. And we decided to include that, but everything else was written during that whole lockdown period.
Oh, great! And then for the cover songs that you guys end up doing, did you all kind of come together and choose the ones that you wanted, or?
Well, I'd been making a list for several years of blues songs that I might want to cover when the time came. The idea of doing a blues record goes back 5 or 6 years for me, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be a solo record or if it was going to be a Gov't Mule record. But I had been kind of mentally preparing for it for a long time, and I'm glad that it turned out to be a mule record, because Gov't Mule has a distinctive way of playing blues.
Yeah, that's great. Aside from the songs, there's you guys have so many kind of interesting elements in just the recording process. And I could simply just talk about that all day, but you guys do stuff like you track it live all in one room, you use more pared down equipment, and then you record a tape, which I think you guys always do. But I guess what was it about those things that you wanted to put specifically on this album?
Well, we used predominantly vintage guitars, vintage amps, small amplifiers, like really small, which kind of forced us to play at a much quieter volume. But since we were in a really small room, it worked out okay. A small stripped down drum kit. There was an organ and a piano that were in the room, but we were basically mixing ourselves. We weren't using headphones. We were just playing to what we were hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking a lot of my old vintage guitars and plugging them into these old vintage amplifiers, in a lot of cases for the first time. A lot of this stuff I had never recorded before, so we were inspired by the sound, which was kind of part of the whole mission, was to let the sound influence the direction of the performance, you know.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And we're set up literally right on top of each other. like we were playing in a tiny club. As I said, no headphones. I was singing through a little vocal monitor, and everything was recorded live with every instrument bleeding in to every microphone. So there was no separation like in modern recording.
Yeah. And I ended up watching some of the behind the scenes videos that you guys put out. And I kind of saw that's kind of the neat thing I love about live recording is like on Snatch It Back and Hold It. Kind of seems like after you get through that middle kind of jam, you're communicating with all the guys and saying, let's go back into this. And that was just really, really fresh and live sound. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And I think that was the first take. And also some of the other ones, like I Asked Her for Water, was the first take. We tried to keep as many first takes as possible, and definitely if we could keep one of the first three, it always helps.
Yeah, and I like I said, I watched the behind the scenes that you guys have out on your YouTube channel, which is great. And another really interesting recording thing is on "Make It Rain," which is a Tom Waits song, and probably one of my top 2 or 3 on the whole album. You have a couple of interesting things going on with that kind of noise through the reverb box. Did you kind of hear that while you were playing, or just kind of pushed it back, or did you not really hear that till you got back into the booth?
Oh no, it was really loud while we were playing. I have this old spring reverb unit from the 60s that I wanted to use, and they make a loud noise if you jolt them, if you bump into them. So we made a point of having it somewhere secure where that wouldn't happen. But we didn't allow for the possibility of like RF, like radio frequencies that would set it off. And so in the middle of the take, it was making this loud noise that sounded like a thunderstorm. and we were actually laughing as it was going on, and hoping that we'd be able to salvage the take. And it turned out that it enhanced it. So it was a happy accident.
Yeah, that was really cool. Between that and kind of the bullet mic sound, it really makes that song just incredible.
The bullet mic was set up all the time. And of course, they're a little dirtier sounding. And so I would just bounce back and forth between the two microphones to give the vocal a different sound,
And was that song in particular one you'd been kind of wanting to do for a while? It's just such a unique tune.
I think I added it to the list a couple of years ago.
I just, in preparation for this, I went back and watched Tom Waits' 2004 performance on Letterman, and man, he just performs that like that situation happened to him in the morning, and he wrote it and then performed it that night.
Yeah, I've seen that version. It's really good.
Oh man, yeah, just so powerful. Okay, and then so the album itself is also out in a deluxe version, which I think has one extra original, and then the rest are covers. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yes, and there 2 of the tracks are live performances that we remixed. Yeah, and our fans tend to be pretty hardcore and excessive. I think most of them like the deluxe version.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I was like, well, I know what I'm getting for Christmas. Oh boy. And so for the rest of the year, you guys have your New Year's run coming up. Will you end up doing, like, I know you did your the Muleween show where you pretty much you played all the Heavy Loaded Blues in its entirety. Will you do that again, or are those New Year's Eve shows kind of more standard Gov't Mule shows?
Well, New Year's is always a thematic show. This year the theme is a black and blue New Year's, which can be interpreted a ton of different ways. We have plans in the future to play like a heavy load set in addition to a normal mule set on tour. What we're thinking and hoping will work out is that we can set up a really small blues setup like in front of our main setup and do the first set stripped down like that, like we were in the studio, and play all blues stuff, and then take a break and come back and do a second set of of normal mule. I think that would be a fun way to approach promoting this record.
Well, yeah, that'd be great. And I had also seen that you guys, another unique thing about this particular setup was that you guys recorded a traditional Gov't Mule album while you were doing this one as well.
Yes.
Wow.
So the plan was to make two records at the same time that sounded completely different from each other. So we had to find a studio that could accommodate that. So this place, the Power Station New England, we set up in the main room and set up all our normal big toys that we always record with. And the main room is a large room with high ceilings. And there's an adjoining room, which is a small room with low ceilings, where we set up all the small amps and stuff for the blues record. We would come in early in the day around 1 o'clock and start working on the new mule material and do that till about 9 p.m. Then take a break and then move over into the blues room and play blues the rest of the night. And it gave us the opportunity to just kind of shut our brains off after a long day of thinking and working on more complex arrangements, and just play blues and kind of cleanse our palate, and also a chance to play blues at night, which is what we wanted to do.
So any idea, or do you know when that the Mule album is going to be coming out? Just
sometime next year. We don't have a date as of now, but hopefully sometime next year.
I truly enjoyed hearing Warren explain some of the magic that goes on in the music he's a part of creating, and cannot thank him enough for coming on the show. Also, a huge thank you to Barry Lieberman for setting everything up for me. As of the publication date of this episode, Gov't Mule has a number of 2022 spring headlining tour dates scheduled across the United States starting April 6th in New York. As you've heard, there are a couple of different versions of the album available, and you can't go wrong no matter which version you choose from their website. I want to thank Pure Mountain Coffee for their continued support, and you can follow along with Black Hat Bone Productions on their Instagram page, where you'll find plenty of concert photographs and any other projects that are in the works. Please stay tuned for more exciting episodes, and I'll catch you all down the road.